When I first heard about the katana, I was really excited about how it wouldn't crack just from the material it was made from. Especially living in New York and having inconsistent weather and a train that either is very hot or very cold all of the time. You're switching temperatures and climates drastically back and forth, which is the last thing you want to do for shakuhachi. So the katana eliminates any worry of cracking. That's what hooked me in the first place. But then once I actually got my hands on one, I started to see all these other great things that it can do. It also breaks down into 4 pieces, which is, for a doubler like me, someone who's bringing maybe 6 or 7 instruments to a gig, the smaller I can make the instrument, the better. So that's really been a convenient part of the katana, and that's to say nothing of how it actually plays. Within a jazz and Western music context, what you really want is for your sound to cut through. The drums and the cymbals are constantly going to be getting in your way or covering up your sound. So you need a really resonant instrument with a powerful sound to get through, and the katana has that. Even on the merry notes, which are the notes that you cover with just half a finger or a quarter of a finger, you still get a big sound, even with the an even tone with the notes that are just not merry. So with that, you have a consistent tone throughout the range of the instrument, and that's so important when you're playing chromatically, as in jazz. So because the katana is made by the same maker as Senshu flutes, which is the flute that I play, the holes are this unique hole size and this unique utaguchi, which is the mouthpiece shape, are the same as on my bamboo flute. And the larger holes are also really good for playing jazz and chromatic music because you can get more air out of them and make it more resonant, even when you're playing a less resonant note. So the combination of that and the aluminum body really gives it a lot of power and consistency throughout the entire range of the instrument. Yeah, so outside of all the practical considerations, just the way it plays, what's nice about this is that the response in the 3rd octave is incredible. What I've noticed different from my bamboo shakuhachi is that the 3rd octave, the daikon register, will just pop right out. And that's usually the hardest register to come out. And it'll pop out coming from lower notes also. You don't have to already be up there. You can be playing in the kan or even otsu register and it'll just pop right out. The response is really, really easy up there. And that's something that I really value when I'm playing fast. And also when you're trying to project above drums, I find myself using the daikon register quite a lot. So having an easy response up there is really important for me. One of the best things about having a consistent instrument like the katana, where the foundation is set, is that you can customize specific aspects of it. With a bamboo instrument, you're pretty much stuck with what comes out of the ground. And that's great if you can find a piece of bamboo that you really like. But having a consistent instrument that's in tune and you know is going to respond well, then we can start to tweak little things on it that might custom suit a certain player. So one of the things they're experimenting with right now is this little ridge on the inside, kind of like a baffle on a saxophone mouthpiece. And what we're finding is that it makes the sound much brighter. Not necessarily better or worse, but a preference that might be better for some players. I could see a player who wants to sound like Hozan Yamamoto really liking this innovation. Hole size is another thing that I know Senshu has always had type A and type B, but they've extended that that philosophy to the katana. And so if you have smaller fingers, or you want to, or you're just not down with the more modern style chromatic music and you want the smaller holes, that's possible. Colors are another thing, just for your own style preferences, that there can be. I could see one of the things that I first thought of when I saw the katana is that it splits, because it splits in 4 pieces. One of them is above all of the finger holes. And so if you play a Western instrument, you know that means you can tune it. So sometimes on a cold day or on a really hot day, or if somebody else's instrument isn't in tune that you're playing with, you can adjust for that here. So I'm really excited about that also. But the possibilities are really endless. It's a simple instrument, but there's still so many customizable options about it, and it's really just a process of experimentation. So I'm excited to see what comes next. If a bamboo shakuhachi is like a Rolls Royce, the katana is kind of like a Lamborghini. It's very powerful. It just kind of takes off, and the response is so quick. And because of that even tone throughout, I could see this really having a place in more like fusion situations, or rock, things with much heavier music where the shakuhachi would have a hard time projecting. I could see this fitting in a lot better and being able to fill that gap. Another idea I had when I first got it in my hands is, because of that powerful response, especially in the otsu, the lowest octave range, is some of the, you might be familiar with like beatboxing flute playing. You can really get that punch on shakuhachi with the katana a little bit more effectively than you could on bamboo. It makes it so much easier. I don't know if it's the material. I don't know. I don't make the things. I just play them. But that's how it feels to me. Bamboo has always been a part of the soul of the shakuhachi. It's always been a really important part of it. But when you break it down, the shakuhachi is a tube with 5 holes in it and a notch. It doesn't matter what material it's made from. And so I hope people will give the katana a shot, and they'll see that it really is right in line with the best bamboo instruments that you'll play. And it might even have some advantages that you'll be surprised by. So I certainly have been, and I hope people won't get hung up with tradition and will invite something new, because I promise if you close your eyes, you won't be able to tell the difference. Well, I'm a jazz musician, first and foremost. I'm a jazz saxophonist. That's how I grew up. It's always been my identity. But as I grew up and through college and now in professional life in New York, I seem to play 8 or 9 instruments every week in a professional capacity, as well as composing music for video games or commercials or trailers, and for myself when I can find the time, and then arranging as well the music of others for various applications, awards shows, also musical theater, cabaret performances, and recording sessions, all alike. So it's just, I've been lucky to have enough crazy different things coming my way that life never gets boring. I guess primarily I play the 4 saxophones: alto, soprano, tenor, and bari, clarinet and bass clarinet, flute, piccolo, alto, flute. So the main instrument families of Western instruments, no double reeds. And then shakuhachi, and a whole bunch of other ethnic flutes, bansuri, ditsa. I play a little bit of keyboard, but no string instruments. Yeah, so all told, I have about 45 different instruments at home, but that I play at varying levels with varying levels of proficiency. Definitely not violin. I first saw the shakuhachi in Akasaka at the venue B-Flat. The Tokyo Big Band was playing there, led by Jonathan Katz, and shakuhachi player by the name of Bruce Hubner, who's American, came up to play with the big band. And that was the first time I'd ever seen a shakuhachi, ever heard one. I might have heard of it one other time, but as soon as I heard the sound of it, and in the context of a jazz band, something just clicked. And I realized there's so much unexplored potential in the world of jazz for the shakuhachi. So I talked to Bruce, and he was so welcoming and let me try playing his shakuhachi. And you know, I couldn't really make a sound, but he invited me out to his place in Yokohama, and we played and talked about it, and I was hooked. After that, I went home to New York, and I got myself that plastic shakuhachi U that everybody gets. And I had just moved to New York, so I had all the time in the world because I didn't have very much work to practice. So I spent about 6 hours a day practicing for the first 3 months. Yeah, I would still say there's no such thing as mastering the shakuhachi or any instrument. As soon as you think you're a master of something, you're not going to get any better. But when I first started playing shakuhachi, I didn't really have much guidance in the traditional realm. Bruce and I would do a Skype lesson every once in a while, but I was pretty much learning on my own, and all I knew how to play was jazz. And so I practiced shakuhachi like it was a saxophone. So I'd practice my triads, my scales, and just try to get them in every single key. I didn't even know that you weren't supposed to play in different keys on the shakuhachi. I just figured that's how I learned every other instrument. That's how I need to learn this one. And then the traditional learning came later. Bruce started to show me some stuff, and then he introduced me to Ralph Samuelson, who's my teacher in New York. Then years later, I received a grant from the Asian Cultural Council, which brought me over to Japan to study with Zenyoji Keisuke, Kinya Sogawa, and Akihito Obama in various schools of shakuhachi. And so I've tried to integrate that into my jazz playing with the instrument. But the goal has always been to play jazz on the instrument. One of the biggest things that inspired me about the shakuhachi when I first saw it was that you can play in between the notes. It's like a voice. The same way you can slur between the 12 notes, da, you can do on shakuhachi. And so I thought that possibility for expression is really exciting, and the different things you can do with that. Not even knowing anything about the traditional side of it, which is a whole nother source of inspiration, but just that was enough to get me really interested in the instrument. This is my first album, Fullfilment, and it's about the music on it is a collection of my best work from the last maybe 12 years. It's fulfillment means realizing a dream, achieving a dream, or finally getting there. For me, it felt like I finally had the confidence in my own artistic voice to put something out there. So I collected my favorite works from the past 12 years, and some of it is saxophone, which is my first instrument. Some of it is shakuhachi, which I found later, and has been a real source of inspiration for me since. And then there are 2 tracks on the album. One is Chinese flute, inspired by my time in Taiwan, and the other one is iwi, which is the electronic wind instrument, which is another instrument that I've been playing for a while. Having a product out there has allowed me to build some momentum behind my career, rather than just being some guy with a piece of bamboo or aluminum. I can hold this product up and say, this is what I'm about. This is my voice. So more important than any gigs that might come my way because of it, it's about having that documentation of who I am, that snapshot of who I am at that moment in time.